distortion plugin that allows you to blend various algorithms together to create very unique distorted textures. So first of all, let me quickly remind you that we have a promo ongoing following the release of the plugin. So be sure to check the Arpeggiator website to see what's your offer on it. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use Dist COLDFIRE in various scenarios. So you will be able to see how powerful it can be, either in terms of sound design, in terms of creative uses, or even in a mixing scenario. So I'm going to quickly open the plugin and take you on a tour of its interface. So this COLDFIRE interface is divided in two different parts. You have a right part here and a left part here. And all the blending action occurs in the middle section of the plugin. So Dist COLDFIRE offers a total of 11 different distortion algorithms that can be blended, as I told you before, via this central screen. So for this example, I've decided to use a bit crusher in one side and a force algorithm on the other side. So you will hear in this example that I wanted to illustrate how powerful Dist COLDFIRE can be using both a very digital algorithm on this side and a very analog one on that side. So first of all, I'm going to play a drum beat, a very simple drum beat, and let you hear how Dist COLDFIRE sounds. So this is the bypass sound, and I'm going to activate it a little bit afterward. This is the wrong instance. Oh no, sorry, dry wet was at 0. So what's really cool about COLDFIRE, as I told you, is this blending options. So Dist COLDFIRE features 5 different routing options, which are serial, parallel, stereo, mid-side, and band splits. And every scenario allows you these different blending options. So what I'm going to do now is show you how these different blending options can work in a more production scenario. So here I have the drum beat that I've decided to use here. I'm gonna apply on it a preset from the factory library, and this is more of a creative preset. So let's hear on this drum beat how this preset sounds like. So this preset is really interesting to look at because it showcases all the features that are included in the plugin. So it uses 2 different bit crushers, comb filtering in the pre-filter section, and multiband compression and feedback. What is really interesting to notice as well is the fact that we decided for Dist COLDFIRE to use the same paradigm in terms of modulation as fragments, but we went even further on it. By further, I mean that we now have 6 modulation slots that can be occupied by various types of modulators that can be either LFOs, function generators, envelope followers, or step sequencer. So for this specific patch called Error Census, I've just edited it a little bit in terms of dry wet, so it will fit better the track that I'm going to play you afterwards. It uses 6 different step sequencers on very different parameters to create this very random texture. And yeah, it really can turn something very basic into something way more interesting. So This kind of pattern, by its own, it's a little bit over the top, but when it's combined with some more percussive elements, it can really add some nice feeling to it. So this is the combination of different percussive elements, and you can see how cool it can sound in a track. Let's go a little bit further and make you hear what you can do, for example, on a pad, a very simple pad. So here I have a Juno Pad that I've made in the context of this track. So you can hear it dry. So this is a very basic chord progression played with the Juno, as I said. So now I'm going to use Dist COLDFIRE just to make it move a little bit more, to make it fit better the track as well by some kind of side chaining options and some more filter movements. So let's hear it. So in the context of this track, if I had to use it, I would probably dial down a little bit distortion amount. And then, in combination with what I did before, so as you can hear, it really helps you create some movement into very, very basic sounds. And this is how powerful this kind of plugin can be. So here, just to inform you a little bit more on the patch, so I have this function generator, which is directly mapped to the output section of the plugin. So it really creates this docking effect that you can hear. I also have a step sequencer which affects the B section, B distortion section, cutoff frequency of a comp filter, and I have another step sequencer which is attached to the pre-filter A cutoff frequency. What's really interesting as well is that even when you are in the more simplified view of the plugin, you still have access to this master section. In every single preset that you will load, you will be able to easily dial the amount of effects you want to apply on it. So as you can hear, these distortion effects are a real part of the composition, but this COLDFIRE doesn't just stop here, and it's also a very interesting mix tool. By that, I mean that we've implemented in it all the best algorithm we have here at Arpeggiator into this plugin. And thanks to some option such as band split or mid-side, you will hear how powerful it can be also on a drum bus or on various elements in the track. So here I have a very simple house beat. So I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna play it first, and then introduce you to the various uses of COLDFIRE in it. So this is a very simple track. I just have a drum bus here, a bass, and a chord progression made with a Rhodes, a sampled Rhodes. So the way I'm using COLDFIRE here, so first of all, I have one instance which is attached to the whole group, to the drum group. So this is my drum bus with some very basic parallel compression. I'm doing it with diode 609. So as you can tell, I have about like 40% of compression applied. And Dist COLDFIRE is attached right after. I'm using here the band splitting mode, and I'm splitting the crossover point is fixed around 200 Hertz. So on the lows, I'm going to use the tape algorithm at about 80%, and on the high section, so from 200 Hertz to 20K, I'm using the tube mode in parallel. And this is how flexible COLDFIRE can be. Each section features its own dry wet control. So you can perfectly dial in very precise way the amount of distortion that you apply to your signal. So here's the drum bus without the distortion applied. And this is with. So it's quite subtle, but if I move here the cutoff frequency of the crossover, you will hear the impact of each module. So tape on the left, tube on the right. So pretty useful on a drum bus. Of course, I went a little bit over the top, so you can easily hear the effect. Now let's hear how I used it on this bass track. So I have. So I have a basic Mini Moog playing from our synth, the Mini V. The sound by itself sounds like this. Pretty simple bass, right? 2 oscillators, I think. And the way I'm using COLDFIRE here is in band split mode as well. I have the force algorithm from our own software, Bus Force, applied to the low section with the curve, which preserves a lot of the low end. And more on the higher part of the frequency, I'm using a tape algorithm pushed to the max. So it adds some more harmonic contents that is easier to hear on smaller monitoring systems, for example. So this is without. And it is when I apply COLDFIRE. Again, I can change the cutoff frequency. And about 200 Hertz, sounds good. On top of that, I'm using the multi-band compressor in the dynamics module. So this really helps to control the low end. So this is without it. This is with it. So it really helps to tighten a little bit, a little bit the bass. And finally, on these keys, I just wanted to have some movement added to the sound. So I have COLDFIRE attached on it again, and the way I'm using it, I have a tape algorithm in series with a bit crusher, and I'm driving a little bit the tape and using the bit crusher to add some texture and some flavor, like you would have using a vintage sampler, for example. I'm also using the multi-band compressor pre-distortion, and applying some modulation, some LFO modulation on a bandpass in the module B. So it has this kind of like movement effect. This is dry. And this is wet. So again, pretty simple. What's important to notice here is that I removed quite a lot of low end in the sound by using the post filter. So these are really handy when you are in a mixing situation, when you want to remove some mud in the low end, so it fits better with the bass. then all together. So this is without and with. So as you can hear, it really helps gluing all the tracks together, especially the drums, adding some more texture and some more grit to every single sound. So very powerful mixing tool as well. If you have any question, of course, feel free to ask. I will be happy to answer them about mixing use. But yeah, it is a creative plugin, but it's also really powerful for other uses. Now I'm going to move to some other music genre. I've made sort of a techno track on which I've applied Dist COLDFIRE to every single element. So I have a kick, I have a bass, an arpeggiator, and some chords. So first of all, let's listen to that. So here what I have is a very simple kick drum. So I'm using drum synths from Logic to create my kick. It sounds like this by its own. And the way I'm using COLDFIRE is to add some more punch and some more grit to it. So I'm using the force algorithm and the transistor algorithm in parallel to create to get some more attack and some more grit, as well as the limiter function post distortion, so I can really hit hard in it and just have something that is more square. So again, I'm going to slide so you can hear the different algorithm. About here sounds right. Then let's hear how it sounds on the bass. The bass is quite interesting. So the bass on its own sounds like this. And I'm using this preset from the factory library called Dual Band Bass Mojo that uses a transformer in one side, which is mostly a very subtle algorithm, but in parallel, in band split mode with a rectifier, which is way more harsh in some ways. And when applied to the track, it sounds like this. So it sounds way harsher. And at the same time, what I'm doing here is that I'm sidechaining this bass to the kick by using the external sidechain option. So by its own, sorry, I've missed my kick. Big kick. That was this one. Wrong one. Oh, techno kick. Instrument, techno kick. I'm using the external sidechain option from my DAW to trigger an envelope follower, which is gonna modulate the output of the plugin. So this is really powerful for different scenarios. Here I'm just docking the volume in a very simple way. But of course you can modulate pretty much every parameter in the plugin using this external sidechain as a modulation source for the envelope follower. So in conjunction with the kick, both sounds like this. Without it. So really interesting trick here to use the envelope follower as a modulator with an external signal. Here, another one which is quite interesting. So I have this Arpeggiator. And I'm using the slapback echo presets from the library. So the way it sounds now with the effects. So as you can hear, it adds quite a lot of movement left and right. This is because we're using the stereo routing mode. Stereo allows you to use different algorithms for left and right channel. So this is quite interesting to get different texture, and when you move and modulate the middle slider, which is done here in this patch with this LFO modulating the middle slider, it really helps creating movement and some variation in your pattern. If I push it, so because I don't want this panning effect to be too harsh in the mix, I just dial it a little bit back, so I can hear more of the original signal thanks to the dry wet option here, and letting it occur left and right. And so in the mix it sounds like this. And finally, another way to use it on these chords. So you heard the track at first, right? I'm using, again, another preset called Signal Beefer. The chords sound like this by their own. So quite simple, right? And with this preset, which uses some compression, pre-distortion, and two very strong algorithms in series, it sounds like this. Again, in the context of a mix. So pretty interesting, right? It really helps getting, you know, this very low sound, very loud. You can add a lot of movements to the different parts of the track. Really interesting for this kind of like heavy genres, heavy electronic genres. One last example I wanted to show you is, again, more in a mixing scenario and also in some creative ways in conjunction with EFX fragments, which is another effect that we've released about 6 months ago. So as usual, I'm going to play back the drums of the track, and I mean the whole track, and then we're going to get into detail. So here's the sound example. So first, let's hear the drums without the plugin, and then I'm just going to activate it and explain you exactly what it's doing. So this is the dry signal. And this is with Dist COLDFIRE. So the way this preset has been done is that it uses two algorithms in serial, again, and some limiting post-distortion to just add some snap to the drums. So it is 100% wet. Sometimes I like to dial it back a little bit more, but I'm going to play a little bit with the drive section of the plugin so you can hear really the different character of the distortion. So here, the germanium algorithm is directly has been directly ported from our Spring 636 plugin. The 636 plugin, Spring 636, is a software recreation of the Grampian Spring Reverb, a very classic spring reverb that has been widely used in the reggae world and all that, which has this very, very characterful preamplifier that uses germanium transistor and diodes. And the way it clips when you hit it hard is really, really interesting. So this algorithm is based on that. The tube one, on the other hand, is based on our own tube preamp, the one that we've used in Rev Plate 140. Both algorithms have a very different character, but as you can hear, mixed in serial, it's really interesting, and it adds a lot of great harmonic content. So again, the drums. Just gonna dial it back a little bit. Perfect example of parallel distortion. And then I'm gonna go to the bass. So the bass is sidechained with a FET76, which is post COLDFIRE, and this is how it sounds without the distortion on it. So you can hear the low end is all the harmonic content is in the low end. So one of the ways you can use distortion is to make it clearer and to generate harmonics more in the higher frequencies. So the bass can be more perceptible in like smaller speakers or bad headphones or these kind of things. So it's really used in hip hop, for example. And this is how it will sound with some more distortion on it. So the bass without it, again, and with COLDFIRE. So it really helps with the drums, again. So quite interesting, right? Now, what I'm gonna play you is a chain composed of so I'm gonna play the sample first, and then I'm gonna explain the chain that I've made to get this sound. So this is the full FX insert. So this is an interesting one because the dry sample sounds like this. So it's a very discrete sample, something that you would use probably very in the behind of your mix. What I did here is use Dist COLDFIRE to add some movement, some filter movement, and some multiband compression. So it just helps every sound to get very upfront. So this is how it sounds with just Dist COLDFIRE. So it's really interesting to hear that every noise generated in this sample is also raised with the multiband compressor. But when used in conjunction with some filtering and some filter sweeps and modulation, it really creates some interesting movement. And after that, what I've decided to do is to add fragments on top of it. Fragments is, Fragments was released 6 months ago. And if you think of COLDFIRE as a creative plugin, Fragments is also like one big creative tool. A lot of features that we've developed on COLDFIRE are actually heritage from Fragments. So if you know Fragments, COLDFIRE is the distortion counterpart of Fragments. So here how it sounds with Fragments on top of it. So without anything. So as you can hear, these two tools combined together can create really interesting movement to your tracks. And yeah, of course, again, I'm gonna play it with the bass and the drums. So quite interesting. Last one, and then we're going to get to the questions, I think. I wanted to showcase how, again, you can add some movement thanks to Beat Crusher Modulation. Again, this is one of the 150 presets from the library in Fragments. This is the original song. So of course it can be adjusted to taste. Really interesting use of 2-bit crushers here, and again in the context of the track. So this is how you can use Dist COLDFIRE in various different scenarios, and so. Yeah, from now on, I think I'm gonna switch to the questions. If there is any in the chat, so here we go. I'll be really happy. Not really sure to understand the first question. Just gonna move to the next one. Please forward to devs. Okay, so the first question I have here is, hello Arpeggiator and François. Can you please forward to the devs the suggestion of adding a dark theme to this plugin? It's really essential for working at night. Yes, I know. I've been a lot on the forums. I've been a lot. I saw a lot of feature requests on that. This is something we are currently working on, also with the graphic design team. We will probably do it in the next update. I'm not really sure when at the moment, but yeah, be sure we will do so in the next one. I hope this is going to be probably before Q2 23. But yeah, I can't say for sure right now. But yeah, it will definitely be done soon. Any other question? I'd love to do some more demos, maybe. If you have any specific topics you want me to cover, I have tons of samples and sessions ready for that. Not sure I have this one. Any more questions, guys? Yeah, well, I can play some more audio if needed, and explain a little bit more the features of the plugin, maybe. Not sure, though. Custom skins? Okay. So the question was, are we planning to add some more custom skins to the plugins? Currently, it's not something that we are thinking about. That said, I think at some point when we'll have both like dark and light modes for some plugins, this will probably be doable. Yeah, this will definitely help. I know that some plugin manufacturers providing that. In the case of most plugins which have skeuomorphic design or neomorphic, such as COLDFIRE or software recreation of vintage gear, it's not something we are really thinking to provide. Probably, though, for EFX fragments and more flat design plugins. I have another question. would we ever be able to automate the limiter controls, threshold release, or parallel slider? So first of all, the parallel slider is automatable in COLDFIRE. So let me just show you that. Let's take this like shaker, for example, and I'm gonna use, yeah. So here I'm gonna put two slots of effects in parallel, so you'll be able to hear it quite well. And here I'll have a type 1. So the slider here is fully automatable. It's just the assignation part is a little bit different to what you're probably used to. On most knobs, you will have to drag on this collar that is surrounding the knobs. On the slider, otherwise, you'll have to drag horizontally to apply modulation. So if I am applying this modulation to the parallel slider, then so this is fully modulable and automatable. Regarding the limiter controls, threshold, release, and other, we've decided to not allow modulation on these specific parameters for the reason that they can produce clicks or other issues like this. Since you are playing with gain reduction and these kind of things, it can be sometimes a bit harsh. This is why there is not a lot of product that allows you to modulate this kind of parameter. This is not really a problem with slow rates, but once you go really crazy with the rates and go, I don't know, in the audio domains, it can quickly become quite hearable. Hearing it over a lead sound would be nice. Sorry if it was demoed earlier. It hasn't been demoed, actually. Would be happy to do it. So let me quickly browse and find a lead in my Apple loops. Gonna try. Okay, gonna try to. This is probably not the best synth lead you will ever hear in your life, but you know, this will work for sure. So here we go. I'm just gonna solo the lead. Here we have it. Perfect. I'm gonna add an instance of COLDFIRE. Sounds a little bit like a Moog lead, right? Okay, and well, as you know, one I would like to showcase is the beat inverter, which is quite interesting. This one allows you to cancel or revert certain beats in the sound, and it's really interesting on some sources. I'm really questioning myself regarding the lead that I've chosen because it sounds really bad. All the leads that I'm finding here are quite processed. That said, you can check on YouTube the various demos and the various tutorials that we've made. Be sure to check the Arpeggiator YouTube channel. We've been covering that. Sorry for this bad demo. Can we see more about how the modulators works? Yes, of course. So let me take you, I'm gonna play this pad again. This is a good example, and I'm gonna design a patch from scratch. That's gonna be way better, I think. So first you have to open the advanced panel here. I'm gonna start with a default patch. And here, so here's the pad without any effect. So the way the modulator works is here you have 6 different slots available. For each slot, you can select which kind of modulator you want to use. So for example, on this one, I'm going to use a step sequencer, and I'm going to modulate what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the modules in serial, and I'm going to modulate the cutoff frequency of the pre-filter. So I want it to be perfectly random, so I'm increasing the random parameter here, and I want it to be synced to tempo at 1/16th. To assign a modulator to any parameter, you first have to press assign, and then you have all these small yellow, white colors that are surrounding the knobs. So I'm dragging my modulation around the frequency parameter. So I'm doing this with a filter to be sure that it's really it can be heard quite easily. Sorry. But then I can do so again with another step sequencer, for example, at 132, and assign it to the bit depth of the So these various modulators, so I have used here two-step sequencers, but I can also use a function generator, for example. So let's take a pre-made curve and apply it, for example, to the dry wet of the plugin. So I'm going to do so. Let's be more drastic. So maybe this is not the most hearable modulation possible, but let's do it with the drive. So yeah, this is an example of how you can apply modulation to any parameter. So the only non-modulable parameters on the interface are the post filter and some parameters in the compressor section of the plugin. Other than that, every single knob on the interface is modulable, including the middle slider. So I'm going to move on to another question. I hope this explained it well, by the way. What is your favorite COLDFIRE feature and why? Well, one that I really like is the feedback feature. I think it's really powerful, and I'm going to show you how it can be used. I haven't really covered that feature yet in the live stream, by the way. The feedback feature is really powerful. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to create a new preset and yeah, use only one module on one side. So let's take maybe a tape tube. Let's go for a tube. So I'm going to play the same beat that I used in the beginning of this video. That sounds like this. Increase the drive. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the feedback module on slot A, which is the one that I've choose to use, and show you how creative this feedback module can be. So the feedback module can be either like it has a time knob that defines the amount of delay that is applied in the feedback loop of module. So this amount of delay so the level of the feedback module just defines the amount of echo you're going to have depending on the time you have. And here you have a filter. What's really cool is that it can be synced to tempo, for example. So that's really cool. But also when it's unsynced, you can do some like really strong resonator effects. So what's really cool is that using this resonator effect, what you can easily do is just create some patterns, and by that I mean really melodic pattern out of a feedback, for example. So here, I'm applying a step sequencer to the time knob. And since the two modules that I've used, the left module and the right modules are in serial, well, I can even drive this a little bit more. So again. So it's really powerful, you know. And I think the addition of the compressor is also something that is quite unique to this plugin. Here in the multi-band compressor, we've included quite a lot of different presets that allow you to really shape in a very effective way the sound that you have. So again, if you don't want to use more distortion to get this melodic pattern go up, just use a OTT preset, for example. Yeah. Oh, crash. Well, my session was on 64 of sample rate, so maybe that was a little bit too much. Let me reopen it real quick. And I'm not sure I was on 64 though. And autosave version. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'm going to look at some more questions in the meantime. What differentiates this from minimal audio rift? So, yeah, I've heard some comments and I've read some comments talking about similarities with Rift. I do agree that both plugins have white interfaces, and that can be, in some ways, you can find some resemblance between Rift and COLDFIRE. That said, in the way the two plugins operate, they are very different. Of course, they are both creative distortion plugins. There are tons of them on the market right now. What I think is way different with our approach is the way we blend analog, like very, very accurately modeled, analog algorithm with digital stuff. Rift, the way it works is that you can apply different distortion on the positive part of the waveform and the negative part. But you can't do any parallel processing, you can't do any mid-side processing, you can't do any stereo processing, you can't do any band split. So, of course, it shares some features, you know, like feedback or, and that's pretty much it, actually, and pre-filtering, maybe. But it's way different. Two products are excellent, to be fair. I love them both. I love ours, of course, a little bit more because, you know, but they're very different, and you can't even get the same results sonically with either one of them. They just don't sound the same at all. So be sure to check COLDFIRE. You can demo it if you want, and just be sure to make yourself your own opinion on the product. But yeah, you'll see it's way different than Rift. I'm going to switch to another question. Would automating the post-filter cutoff be possible? So the post-filter cutoffs are automatable, but they're not modulable. Maybe this will be addressed in a further update, in the next update. Not sure when, though. What is your suggestion to achieve a sound similar to a Big Muff? So Big Muff, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a distortion pedal which was made by Electro-Harmonix in the 70s. It's still in production today. It's more of a fuzz pedal. It has very, I don't know, like warm sound. It's a lot of distortion applied to it. What I would suggest you in that case is to use the transistor algorithm. I don't have any guitar track here, but I can put it maybe on Let me see, maybe on the bass, yeah. Big Muff was quite used by bass players back then. So I'm using a Minimoog. It's not an acoustic bass, but still very, very used. So here's my bass. You've heard it earlier, right? So I'm going to use the transistor algorithm. So here you have it. And you'll hear, I'm going to put both modules in series. So the Big Muff is very well known for its very rich low end and a big mid scoop as well. So what you can do here is use a high pass filter with a very low cutoff frequency and just increase a little bit the resonance, so you will have more emphasis on the low end. This is probably the closer you can get from a Big Muff using COLDFIRE. And of course, if you want to play with some more distortion, then choose from whatever you want. But yeah, I would say germanium in transistor are the closer to this kind of sonic texture. Let's see if I have any more questions, and it doesn't seem like it. So I think we're done for today. Thank you very much for watching this live stream. I hope you had enough information on the plugin. Be sure to check the various tutorials that we have on the Arpeggiator YouTube channel. And I will be happy to meet you another time for another live stream. Thank you.